It's working now, mate. The chat's at the bottom. I've just got to get the live stream to work again. There we go. We're up and running by the looks of it. So, I think we're live again, and I've got comments working this time. Hopefully. So, that was just a little bit of a strange one, but this is actually my first time doing this properly, live on YouTube. So, hopefully, we are working now. I just want to see if everything is there. Yeah, okay.
Alright, well I've sent that video anyway. There's a video I've just found. Right, so now chat's there. When I come on, I'll put hello, and then see if you can click on my name, and then you might get an option to make me a mod.
Okay, mate, well, I'm just waiting for you. I've just put a hello in the chat room to see if it's come on, so hopefully you can add you as a mod. It's all new to me, this is. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy by abide Acumen guidelines. Yes, I will do YouTube and Google. Thank you. So guys, hopefully we've got something soon. Hi going. So I've now added you as a mod. Welcome, Gav. Can you hear me? Yes or no? We're getting there. Voice is a little quiet. How about now? 1 2 mic check. 1 2 2 2. Mic check. 1 2 2 2 2 mic check. 1 2 2 mic check. 1 2 2 2 2 2 mic check. Mic check. 1 2 1 2 1 2 mic check. 1 2. Is that all right, Gav? Okay, yeah. It's just I've got the actual sounds down, the volumes turned down a little in OBS because I had a little bit of distortion problem when it crashed. So, if that's better, mic check. 1 2 2 mic check. Check 1, check 2. Yes, I can count to 2. Like all good sound engineers, we can count to 2. Okay, mic check. How's that, Gav? Just give me a yes or a no. Is that better? Okay. Tell me how the music is. Now when I play back, I may have to just lean over a little bit here. How's that, mate? Right, let me just turn off a few things because I've got madness going on this computer. This computer seems to have a mind of its own at the moment. I'm just setting all of this up, and I'm just going to flick to that. So that this is the Elite EDM Stars website, which hopefully we will be launching soon once I switch to a new server and bigger resources. Mic, okay, I'm going to turn that up. How's that? 1 2. How's that? 1 2 2 2. Mic check. Okay, a little bit closer. How's that? So I'm just going to turn off the button so I don't get a feedback, because I can hear myself through the speakers. Okay, so if that's spot on now, I'm going to play some music. Just tell me if you get any feedback or anything from the microphone. Okay, how's the music? Is that all right? Is the mic okay? I'm just going to turn my feedback button off. Yeah, because I get a bit of an echo delay, so I'll have to keep switching between the, or just turning it down basically. So I'm going to do that so I can hear the music back, but then I can just turn myself on and off, otherwise I get this. And feedback. Okay, so that should be enough for me. Right, welcome ladies and gentlemen to Elite EDM Stars. This is going to be our live channel, and this is our website. So I'm just going to walk you through this website a little bit, and it will be launched pretty soon. As I say, we're just switching over to a new server, so we've got faster, bigger resources to cope with the size of the academy. So we are a creative electronic music business academy for global electronic musicians. Passion for EDM will be your success. Just to let you know, that's myself, Darren Bayton. I am the CEO of Elite EDM Stars. I've been a music producer for over 25 years. I went under the names of Pink Bomb, assigned to Quad Communications back in 1998. And I then worked under the name the Rhythm Purists from about 2000 onwards to about 2005 as a producer and a DJ with another guy. And then later on, I became a music tutor at Kidderminster College here in the UK. And later on went to university. So when I left university, I decided to start the academy. Unfortunately, I had to put it on hold for a while, but now in the last 12 months, I've been focused on the project. So without further ado, I'll just explain a little bit of what we're going to do, and then I'll go straight into the production side of things. As I say, this is just our first live stream. It's just a little bit of a test to see how things go. As everything happens live, there are teething problems, which I've had for the last half an hour, but we're now getting there. So, just a little bit, we're going to be doing private one-to-one tuition. You will be able to access our courses at any time when we have those courses, and there will be multimedia learning videos and feedback from us. But without further ado, really, without going into too much detail about the website, these are going to be the main focus: one-to-one tuition, acoustic services, mastering tuition, sort of life coaching, mentoring, music marketing, and label distribution. So we're going to offer these services, but also we're going to teach people on how to set up your own record label, how to market your music, how to set yourself a business and career plan, how to acoustically treat your room, for example. So we will be offering these as a one-to-one tuition through the internet to start off with, and then our courses will come in phase 2. So for phase 1, we're focusing on our live tuition, house music production, as I mentioned, acoustics, trance music, audio mastering, music marketing, sound design, remixing music, and career life coaching. So for example, if you wanted to book a session with us, you click on this box here and it'll explain a little bit about it and what we're going to do, and then there is a calendar booking system. So for example, you can book us 3 sessions are available per day. They are 1-hour sessions. You can book more than 1 hour, you can repeat them. There is more information, but again, until the website's live, I'm not going to give too much information away. Just a little bit about our tutors. So there's myself, that's Gavin Summers, who's a trance music producer and also the moderator at the moment in this group. That's Ashley, and that's Jerome. Jerome's a progressive and trance music producer and doing progressive house now. Ashley's a house music producer and DJ. I'm a house music and deep house music producer and DJ. And Gavin's a trance music producer. And also a music theory expert who's got very high qualifications in music theory. So he's the guy to go to for all of the great chords and riffs. Okay, sessions with Jerome to finish your tracks. And there will be a blog and articles and tutorials and tips coming soon. So stay tuned, and I'm now going to go into the live side of things, and we're going to go straight into Ableton Live. And we're just going to walk through an actual track that myself and Gavin started roughly 12 months ago, but we haven't actually had the time to work on it because I've been working on this academy. And last night we actually started to launch the track again and had a listen to it, had to repatch the samples back in because I'm on a new Mac and the track was written on the old Mac that's in the corner there. So I had to literally repatch all of the samples and the synths back in, and then I decided to start revamping the track. So we're now going to move on to that. So fingers crossed. Let's get Ableton Live in, and I'm just going to make sure that OBS, and you can actually see what's going on in OBS. I'm going to now mute my cameras. Actually, I don't think you could actually see that display then. So again, I'm just getting used to all this. So there we go. That's what I wanted to go through, guys. So if I can just quickly show you the website again, without further ado. My apologies on that one because I'm still getting used to switching views on this OBS software. It does get a little bit confusing. So, okay, so this is the website, roughly. That's myself, Darren Bayton, okay. And these are the services that we're going to offer, as I mentioned before: one-to-one tuition, acoustic services, coaching, mastering, marketing, label distribution. And when you come to book a session with us, you can literally just click on these bookings system here. So if you wanted studio acoustics, you click on studio acoustics and the calendar will book you in for a session with us. So without going into too much detail, as I say, there's myself, there's Gavin, who's the moderator in the YouTube group, that's Ashley, and that's Jerome. So we've all got a combined skill, probably over 30 to 40 years worth of experience all between us, maybe more. Okay, so the website will be advertising the live tutorials as I mentioned there. And there is other services that will be coming and will be live, and the blog, etc. So that's just a quick sneak preview of the website and what everything's going to look like. And as I mentioned, so I do apologise that I was talking and you couldn't actually see anything there. So I've just got to get used to these little cameras and what is actually going on. Yeah, okay, so brilliant. There we go. So without further ado, we're going to walk you through this track that I mentioned. Gavin and myself, we've named ourselves Groove Agents. Literally today we came up with the name. And this is a little bit of a walkthrough on the track. So I'm just going to open up the track so you can see all of the parts as we play through. You can see the bass line sections there, the piano sections. Now unfortunately, as I say, some of the synthesizers are not available on the computer at the moment. So I've had to take a freeze version of this track from the other computer, but we still have most of the elements. We have all the MIDI sections, for example, the bass line there, and the piano. So for this collaboration, Gavin came up with a house style piano and then sent me the MIDI file over, and I literally started to play around with the timing of the notes. They were slightly different from the original version that Gavin sent me. There was a lot more sort of legato notation, and I made it a little bit more staccato in the sound to find the timing and the rhythms. And if I just play the piano on its own, there are two piano layers. There's a traditional Ableton Live grand piano and also a Korg M1 house piano. So if I just play the piano sections here. If I unmute it may help if I unmute everything. So we're just going to walk through the actual track, and then I'll take you through some of the sections and some of the parts. So we're just going to focus on the first part of the break. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're not going to sort of focus on this part just yet. I'm just going to walk you through this section. Apologies if there are a few glitches here and there. I've ordered some more memory today, another 32 gig of RAM, so that we don't have problems and issues with the RAM. So just, yeah. So, okay. So yesterday, when I relaunched the track again, the samples were missing, kick drum was missing, so I started with a new kick drum, changed the kick drum from what I'd originally got in there. I'm just going to get rid of that there because we no longer need that. Okay, so yeah, and what I did is I started to rebuild the front section of this track here. So first of all, kick drum. I took a sample from a sample pack, and literally it's only playing the first kick. Even though that's a whole kick sample there, it's literally only playing that first kick. So if I just play that, now there is a little bit of boom on this kick, so I must remember to actually solo the channels every time I do this, otherwise you can't hear me talk. So there is a little bit of boom on this kick, and as you can see, the shape of the kick here, it's very very boomy if you look at the waveform. So what I'm going to slightly do is I bring a little bit of the sustain down in the kick drum just to take a little bit of that boom away. Only about 4 or 5 decibels. Again, obviously I can't hear this fully, so unfortunately, because it'll just distort through the speakers and you'll get nasty feedback. So I'm just going to sort of do this in real time as such. And you can see what we've got here is a little bit of a filter, which is actually an EQ, but I've just literally automated. And if I just turn my automation lanes on there, so just literally in Ableton Live 10, turn your automation lanes on at the top. And you can see that I've just got a bit of a filter at around 170 Hertz. So we've low passed the bottom end out, and then it just drops back in on that kick there after the first 8 bars. So we won't know until we get to there how it sounds. So you can see that's full sustain, and all I'm doing to, instead of shaping the kick drum and finding another kick drum and etc, and instead of trying to pull some EQ out, literally all I'm doing is on the attack, decay, sustain and release section of the sample, I'm just pulling back in the sustain so it doesn't boom away so much. So you should be able to hear that. Okay, and again, this track hasn't actually been mixed down properly yet. There's just basic mixing, basic EQ on there. And if I just show you that automation, what happens there again, you'll see it just drop. Now we've rolled the kick off around 34 Hertz there, and when it drops back in, and I'm just going to literally move that so that the peak is roughly there around about in the key of D. If I can get it to the key of D. Come on. Okay. There we go. It's actually in D sharp. I think I just missed it. There we go. So about 37.7 Hertz we've rolled off, and I'm using the second EQ bump there to literally just add a little bit of fundamental gain on top of the kick drum at the fundamental root note. And the key of the track, we are in, the root note is in the key of D. So you can see there, D1. And again, you can also tune the kick slightly as well, the fundamental, into also another part of the track which is in the same key. So if we look at the notation, we've got D, F and A. We've also got a C in there. So we could go with an F on the root. So if you look again back on the kick drum, just on the EQ, and instead of the fundamental seems to be peaking around about in the key of F, but the actual drum sample itself is in the key of D. If you look at the sample here, it is an actual kick drum in the key of D. So I'm just going to loop around here a second. So just highlight and then Command L. And there you go. So I've settled on the key of F for the fundamental bump, or sort of say kick drum gain section. And what I've done on the kick drum here on the EQ is moved a middle section out here, and the reason I've done that is to allow for the energy of the bass to cut through as well. Now the muddy section on any sort of kick drum or bassy sound is literally around about 300 Hertz. So if you look at that, we are around about 417 Hertz. So anywhere from around 300 onwards is a muddy section. And what this does, it just allows for the energy and the sustain of the kick to be taken away a little bit, and it just allows for the energy of the rest of the track to cut through and the kick drum to cut and sit there nicely over the mix. So we'll move on to the rhythm section next. So as you can hear there, just a simple clap coming in, and I'm just going to leave the kick drum in there as well so you can hear that. And on this occasion I'm using a sample. Sometimes I will use MIDI and a sampler, as you can see here on another layer of claps we've got here. So on the next one we've got claps there, and they're actually in MIDI. And if I click on that track, you see they're actually inside a drum rack. So that's the clap that's playing there. And what I've done is made sure that the start of the sample is right at the very start there. I could move it along if I wanted to and find a nice point that crosses over the 0 section there of the waveform. I forget my microphone again. I keep forgetting this microphone, unfortunately, guys. Sorry about that. So I'll explain that again. You can see inside this pattern, I've got a little bit of a groove going on. I have to keep remembering to mute my microphone here. So I'm just going to go into the drum group and we'll loop around this pattern here, and we're just going to solo this hi-hat. And you can see there we just got a simple straight hat pattern again as well. So this simple hat pattern is literally, if I put the quantize of 1 bar on, or should I say eighths, you can see that the MIDI is triggering bang on the notation on the offbeat there. However, because sometimes what you can do, if to make it more real and organic, you can actually slightly shift these notation. So I could do this, but it all depends where the starting point of the sample is as well. So if I were to do that, that would make it more natural, less robotic. However, as I mentioned, I'm just going to check the drum samples itself. And if you look into the sample, you can see that the waveform is at the start. Now, I could move this around until it got, you know, and what you can do is play this in real time and just literally mess around and listen to what happens to the sample. Okay, and again, simple EQ, just rolling off literally all of the low frequencies here, a little bit of a boost here, and we'll just boop that there, and so just a little bit of a fundamental boost, and that is on 1.52 kilohertz. So all we're doing is just picking up that little spike here, boosting that and rolling off everything on the low end. We don't want any low end frequencies from hi-hats or snare drums really picking up in the mix. We want to allow as much headroom in the track as possible. Now I'm just going to show you the master out, because I only have a very, very basic master on the track. I'm going to turn the master off and so just show you the difference. All I have is a simple glue compressor and a make it loud glue compressor and a limiter with a 4 decibel boost. I'll just play you the difference between that. And I'll play the whole track. Now, the reason I use a master on my master out is just purely for referencing. What I will do is when I come to mix this track down, I will take the master off and restart again. I will do the mix from scratch, listening to it without the master on. But this is just for my reference purposes really, and I have a limiter on the outputs, because you have to remember that when you go on to radio, if your track happens to make it onto the radio, on a radio station they have probably maybe 1, 2, 3 compressors and limiters, so that it doesn't pop out of your speakers and it controls the sound basically. So if your track is over squashed and over limited and over compressed on the master out, it's going to sound completely lifeless when it comes on the radio. So this is just purely for my own purpose. I do master my own music sometimes. I tend to sort of leave it a week or two afterwards, after I've made the track, just to give my ears a chance to sort of refresh and come back to it, and then I'll completely remaster. I may master the track inside Ableton Live itself, or I may actually bounce the whole track down as stems, individual stems, and mix it in back in a different sequencer like Pro Tools for example, or I will just send it off to a mastering plant. Guys like Labelworks are pretty good at mastering. They offer you know everything, all the label services and stuff. So this, as I say, is just a pure guide for me, just to give me an idea of how everything is sounding together and gelling together in the mix. And all I have also is a little washout plugin. Occasionally there is a little bit of washout. If we just click on that, I don't think we have any washout at the moment. but no. And the washout, all it does is acts as like a transition, and I'll just show you what I mean. So what that's good for is just little transition sections. So when you're coming up to a bit of a break here, for example, what we could do, I click on the master there, and there we go. Look, we have a washout slightly there. So I'll just play you that section there, with and without the washout. Okay, so that's with washout, and I'll take the washout off. Now it's you know, there is an argument to sort of there. Does it sound better with it or better without it? And again, it's just preferential choice. So if we sort of go into the plugin itself and we have a look inside what's going on, I'm just going to turn that on, and I'll play this again when it's in real time, so you can actually physically see what's automating. So we've got a grain delay, we've got a filter, a low pass or sort of high pass filter, and they're all automated through, and also the resonance is automated. And again, we have a reverb, we have an EQ, and we have a filter delay, and they're all sort of playing through at the same time. So I'll just run that through again, that section there with the washout on. And you can see what's happening here. There's a slight compression, and that backs off as the mix changes. As it comes in, the mix gets heavier, the threshold compresses it down a little. We've got a filter delay with the volumes turning up, all three filters, so the left, right, and a left and right input. We have reverb automating on the dry and wet signal, and we also have the filter here and the resonance and the grain delay. Now, as I say, it's you know, we could sort of have this a lot higher. I'm just going to turn that up and see what happens when it's higher, and it completely washed the whole track out. It's almost like the DJ effect that you would get on a DJ mixer, but in my case I'm literally just doing it as a slight effect. I may even back it off a little bit more when I come to the final mix down. It just all depends on how much of this part of the track messes together, and then I'm going to have to start adjusting volumes to make the vocals come back out and through. So bringing me on to the rest of the track, this vocal we literally added last night. This vocal wasn't there, so we didn't have any of that playing. We didn't have this section playing here as well, this little break beat. So this was the track without it. Okay, so myself and Gavin thought we needed a little bit of vocal chops in there, something to, you know, give it a bit of texture. We tried a few vocal chops, they were a little bit happy sounding, and we wanted something a little bit more darker that kind of 80s vocoder type effect. So I found a perfect vocal sample in a sample pack last night, and so I decided to put that in there, and then the whole vocal was playing like this. So if I just loop around this, and it was playing the whole vocal. Show me how to love you, show me how to hold you right. I know you are present now. And what I decided to do this morning was to literally just again chop that up into some sections, and so it wasn't so repetitive. So it sounds like this. And again, also we've got a filter on there, so you'll see the low pass filter on this occasion. It's just slowly filtering up. And all I did to do that was literally take the vocal, and I just chopped it in half, or into a quarter of what it was originally. So that was the full loop there, and I just chopped it back, repeated, and then let the second half of the should I say the first half, or the second half of the first half of the sample play. And then in this section here, I made it chop up again, and you can't actually see that because it's all one color, so I'm going to just separate and highlight that for you there, and I will just change the colors so you can see what's going on. So just a little bit of a loop. And again, coming back to just the master out, you can see on the washout, and I've literally backed it off there because I don't want it coming up to the whole end of the track. I mean, I could do this and you'll see what happens. It'll just sometimes sounds messy. And again, it all depends on your track. It all depends on how many elements do you have in this section here where you're going to be using this washout. It's created by Bassclef, and it's for just literally creating transitions, and helps you transition from one section to another. So if I play that with full mix right to the very end, it may work, it may not. So that's to the extreme, but I'm just going to back it off there because I like it to slightly come down on the last bar of the track, just to give the elements chance to breathe again, and chance for it to reset, the delays to reset themselves before they go into the next section of your track, before the drop or the bass drop comes in. So, and then we were playing around, myself and Gavin last night, we were playing the track, sending clips back to each other while we were collaborating on this. And what I decided to do, we thought it needs a breakbeat because the breakbeat wasn't there, and it just sounded like this. So I thought, yeah, it's nice, but there's just something missing. So what we did first was put a breakbeat in there, and then we took the clap, because the snare and the clap in the breakbeat wasn't very loud. It's a very quiet sample, and I didn't want to bring up the sample too loud, because what will happen is I may bring up the noise floor in the background when the sample was originally recorded. So to rectify that, what I did was to actually put just the clap from the start of the track and laid it over with the breakbeat. So if I just play this, Okay, so that's without the clap, and then just to add a little bit of extra texture so that the clap and the snare comes through on the breakbeat. Now, just to mention about the piano, Gavin's a trance producer, and he's sort of shifting into a bit of house music as well, so we're kind of helping each other produce house music. I used to be a trance producer, as I say, under the name Pink Bomb, signed to Quad Communications many years ago. I'm working under DB9 project for my progressive trance stuff. I did have a track out, or a remix of our original track called Indica, on Solar Stone's label. It was re-released again on Black Hole Recordings in 2019. So I'm helping Gavin with that trance sort of transition from trance into more house. So when Gavin's playing his trance pianos, we've obviously got a difference in BPM, roughly about from 15 BPM difference, you know, roughly 138, 140 BPM. And I'm producing on this track at 125. So when Gavin originally made the chords for the piano, some of the notation was a lot longer and the timings were slightly different. So what I did is I came into this and slightly played around with these to just get the timing right. And I did mention this at the start of the session, but I just wanted to recover that basically. So, and then what I did, I took, I think this was a standard grand piano in Ableton, yeah, and then I loaded up the Korg M1, just a demo version. I don't have the full plugin, but if you're looking for that traditional house piano sound, the Korg M1 plugin is fantastic for that. What I do plan to do is I've got my over the back here. I don't know if you can see roughly just over here. I've got my Yamaha DX27, which is a very, very old vintage keyboard, and I'm trying to get some of the sounds off that. And also I've got my Roland Juno D, and I'm trying to get the sample those, the house pianos off those as well. So that kind of sort of brings us to the next section, which is the bass line. But before I go into the bass line, I will just sort of cover the rest of the percussion in the track and show you. So this is my sort of go-to drum loop that I use for most of my productions. You know, sometimes you have just one loop that is just perfect for everything, and it makes the track, it brings the track to life. And I've got two of those. They are two tracks I literally go to every single time I'm missing something, or it doesn't sound quite right, or doesn't have the groove I'm looking for. Now, again, I'm not going to go into massive detail in all of this about groove, etc., because it's just way too much to cover in this session. That's obviously what a private tuition session's for, so book one up. Yeah, and also, guys, while I mention it, I don't like to mention all this self-advertising, but you know, click the subscribe button, help us out, give us a like if you like it, and leave a comment, and we will really appreciate that to help the channel grow. I don't usually like self-promoting like that, but everybody's at it these days on YouTube, so why not, eh? But just to go to these loops, and I'm just going to play these through, and I'll solo them off again. Okay, so those are my literally go-to loops. And then what we have here is also another sort of combined hat loop as well, with a little bit more swing. And I'd just like to sort of layer them up. I texture them. You will notice if we come to the mixer, that the the levels on these are balanced right down. When I pull a sample into the track, I always back it off by at least 12 decibels straight away. Same with any effects and sounds. It's not about how loud you can get them, it's all about the balance in the mix, and you don't want them fighting for each other. So as a rule of thumb, when I start a track, I tend to sort of leave my master out on 0. I usually drop my kick drum down to about -7 and -8 decibels. On this one, -6, -5.9, you can see at the moment. And you can see I've got these on slight automation as well. But anyway, coming back to the track. I just wanted to play this little sample here. So now I'm just going to solo the whole drum group. What I've got here is the drums all grouped together, and I've just got literally a simple drum parallel glue compressor here at the moment. And you may find that some of them have got EQ, some haven't. Like I say, this is still a very raw track. It's just getting the production right first, so most of this doesn't actually have any EQ on it at all. They are just literally raw. Okay, so there will be some EQ added. There will be a lot more done to the mix. But for me, when I'm starting a track, what I like to do is literally get all of the elements in there, get the flow of the track, balance it down as best as I can, like I say, by doing an A/B test of the master. I'm just going to shut that off so we can't see all of that. So I do an A/B test of the master out, and I get my mix balance right. And what I'm doing is I'm literally just looking at all these levels. I'm looking for anything that may clip. While I've got this master off, I'm looking at the master out. I'm looking to make sure that things are not clipping on the mix at all. And if they do clip, I've got this little button here, little section here. Look, if you click that, that will reset your root mean square output. And what I'm doing, as I go through the track without the master out on, what I will do is keep clicking this just to reset on the master here. So if you can you see that just there on the right side. And what this is doing is giving me an average reading of what all of the combined channels are doing together. So you can see I've got quite a lot of headroom there, 7 decibels at least. It's -7 on the mix. So I've got about 7 decibels of headroom in the track. So that's great, because then if I want to send this off to a mastering engineer, I can send it off like this and they will master it for me. Or I could send the individual stem files and they will mix them down, individual stems. Stem mastering is a lot better. My remix for Solar Stone was done through stem mastering. So I literally bounced all the tracks down as individual stems and send it off for Dolby surround sound mastering, which I do recommend. But for your own self-purpose, as a good rule of thumb, as I mentioned, that's why I always start my kick drums off at 7, -6, -7. Look at what the headroom is on the final output, and it gives me an idea, an indication of whether the track is going to distort, because we don't want any digital distortion. We're not working in an analog section or an analog console. We can't get away with pushing the faders up to +3 and +6 like on old analog mixers. Now, I just want you to pay attention to this right-hand side of the master here, with and without. So as soon as I put the master on, you'll notice that the ceiling, or the floor ceiling, will just come up to -0.3 decibels, and that's because if you look on this limiter here, I've set the ceiling to roughly -0.3 decibels and a 4 decibel gain. So even though we've got about -7 decibels, I could probably push that a little bit more, but we may start to create some distortion in the mix. So again, you have to remember that your mix, when it goes through a radio, it gets compressed 2 or 3 times on a limiter, or if you're playing in a nightclub, you may be going through compressors and limiters again. They may have 2 or 3 stacked up, and what will happen is if it keeps on clipping through, it will just literally trip the limiter and the compressor, and you may find it will just literally duck the track out and cut the track out, etc., because it's just clipping the sound. But when I put the master out on, you'll notice, take it off, sorry, when I take it off, you'll notice it's about -7 decibels, and then when I put it on, it brings it up to that ceiling level, and it doesn't clip the track. Now, I'm just going to try and push something so that you can see the decibel change in that without the mastering out on. I'll just reset that back to where it was, and then you'll see. So if you notice there, that added about 3 decibels of gain. Just me putting the kick drum up added 3 decibels of gain. So I'm just going to drop that back again. I'm going to play it again and then put the master out on, and notice how it just brings it up to this ceiling here. It boosts it 4 decibels. I could boost it 7 decibels, but I'll show you what happens. Okay, so that's a little bit about mastering. If there are anybody commenting in the group, I apologise if I'm not responding to comments at the moment. If there are any questions, just leave your comments down below, or leave your questions down below, and I will get back to you when I go back through the live stream, and I'll try and answer as many questions as I can for you. Hopefully Gavin's answering questions as well. But yeah, this is what we're going to sort of be doing, guys, over the coming weeks. We're just launching the academy, but I wanted to try and get the live stream channel up and running as soon as possible. And hopefully we're going to start doing a few more sessions, and some of the other tutors will be jumping on and doing live stream sessions as well. So just to finish off, I'm going to just show you the bass section. Again, I can't go through the synthesizers because unfortunately I don't have the synths on here. I don't have those synths installed yet. This is a brand new Mac. I've had to literally transition everything across from my old Mac over there onto this new one. So some of the plugins are not installed yet. I'm trying to keep it very, very simple and very basic to prove that you don't need lots of plugins to make tracks. So what's happened here is that you'll notice that the tracks are actually frozen. There's a function here on Ableton that you can freeze tracks. You can see that's frozen there, and you can see the tracks grayed out. So it allows you to freeze the track and then bounce it down as audio, and that's what I actually had to do with the Korg M1. And you can see that's the sample of it there. And because Ableton's so good, even though the synthesizers are not actually installed, it's the same with the bass groups here. You can see that that should be these are on operator. These are frozen out because the track got very CPU intensive, and I've only got a small amount of RAM. I'm waiting for some RAM to come in the post, which I ordered today. So once we've got that extra RAM, we'll be able fully flying again. But these tracks have been frozen, but some of them are running on massive, and you can see, for example, this one had got massive and it's disabled here. But what Ableton does is when you freeze a track, it actually creates an audio version in the consolidation engine in the back end of Ableton Live, and it creates an audio version. So you can mute the track and you can send this track to anybody else who uses Ableton Live, and they can open the track up and they can still play your track exactly how it sounds, as if it was made on their computer instead of your computer. And that's, as I say, purely because of Ableton's freeze engine creates an audio in the background without you actually physically having to bounce that audio down. So there's a couple of things, and if you wanted to do that, you know, you can just freeze the track, but if you wanted to actually create the audio as well, so Ableton users will probably know this, advanced Ableton users, but if I wanted to actually bounce this section down here, what I'm doing is creating a new audio track. And I'm going to bounce this section here down into audio. Oh, I've got reverb on my voice then, and that's because of the washout plugin. So if I bring it back here, we shouldn't have too much reverb. We might have a slight echo and delay. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this down. So imagine I've just frozen the track. Well, I don't have to freeze the track. I can just literally grab it down. Actually, I won't do that. I need to press what is it on the Mac? The Option key. So if I do that, it should create an audio engine. Actually, no, it's not. It didn't do it for me, which is typical. I think that's because there's no synth on there. Yeah, there we go. There's nothing on there. So what I was trying to do actually, and without going into too much detail, what I was trying to do was actually just drag this down, freeze the track, and if I was to freeze this section here, okay, so I just had to wait for Ableton to do its functions. So usually when you freeze a track, and the next function is allows you to drag it down as a piece of audio. And you can see that's audio, even though there's nothing inside there because there's no synthesizer. But that's the idea of what it does. You can quickly, instead of having to record the audio back in itself as a loop, you can actually physically just freeze the track, drag it down, and it will create an audio version of that track there. But we'll do that in another session. We'll come in and do a different session and doing some different Ableton Live tricks and production tricks. Now, one thing I want to do myself is actually I wanted to try and, on this piano, a little trick with the piano chords. I actually wanted to create a little reverse. So I'm going to duplicate that track. And a little trick to make your piano sound a little bit brighter. I'm only trying this on the first section. I don't want the rest of it. And what I'm going to do is just do one simple bar. I'm going to loop around that bar, and I'm going to chop each section, I'm just going to literally split. I need to change the quantize. So I'm just going to highlight there and split. Highlight there, split. So you will notice the little shortcuts for that is Command and E. So if I just do Command E, it will split. And the reason I've split these is because I want to reverse them, and I want to actually reverse them in the individual sections. And I need to just zoom in there on that one and change the quantize into a 32. I'm just going to split that. Split all the audio sections, and then what we're going to do is double click on each section, and we're just going to reverse each sample. It is on beats at the moment. I do need to come back in and change all of this to the logarithm for the audio from beats into complex or textures, etc., tones, probably onto tones for a piano. The reason is because the default of Ableton Live, when it brings my samples in, is set to files folder. Where's it gone? Audio. So when they come in, they're actually set to a default. Where's it gone? No, not the link. There we go. So the default trigger mode and default quantization and the default warp mode. So Ableton Live has a time stretch feature, and we can set it to be default. Every time we drag a sample in, it's set to on beats, and you can do this whatever you want to. So for example, if you were doing a remix, which we're going to do that one of the days, we're actually going to do a session where we take a track and remix it from start, and you will probably want this on to be complex or complex pro. You want your samples to be beats, so it's up to you how you start with your base a logarithm feature for Ableton Live for the warp mode. So you can turn whether it's got fades on the clips on the edges on or off. You can have this on auto or unwarped, one shot, warped one shot, or warped loop. Usually if you are dragging in long stem tracks, for example an a cappella or some stems from a remix, you'd probably want to take the auto off. You don't want Ableton to time stretch that for you automatically. You want to be able to do that yourself. So you probably just unwarped one shot and set the that to maybe complex or complex pro, or yeah, just complex. This only gives you up to complex. So those are just little features, and again, we can go over these in more tutorials at a later date. If anybody's got any ideas for tutorials, what we want to do actually is, the reason we're not actually launching the courses and actually just sitting here making courses and tutorial videos for you, we'd rather do this live. I think it's better to actually interact with somebody to be taught with. When I was teaching, a lot of the students in the class, you know, if I used to sit around and go around the class and actually sit with them for 5-10 minutes and work on a track with them, show each individual student how to do certain things, and then leave them alone, come back, and then they would just carry on work, and if they got stuck, they'd just ask me questions. When you're watching videos, you can't ask the person questions, and we don't always have the time to reply back and answer. So that is my the reason that we're not just going to sit there and just make lots of videos. We are going to do some tech tip videos and other things, but you'll see what happens over the coming weeks. But for now, we're just going to do live tutorials, maybe half an hour, 1 hour tutorials. But tonight is literally just about actually introducing who we are, what we do. So coming back to this piano, what I'm going to do is each section, I'm just going to reverse them. So a little function here, click reverse. And you can see each sample will reverse. This may work, it may not work. It's a new production technique that I've picked up recently. Undo that, undo that. Okay, so yeah, it did reverse. So the idea is that I want to blend this piano in with this piano. As I say, it may work, it may not. It may work on some notes, so if it works on some notes, we just take some away, just by quickly highlighting on that and deleting it. Now, I am still new to the Ableton Live 10 because I have been working on version 9 for a very long time. I literally only just switched a few months ago into Ableton 10, and I am waiting for Ableton Live 11 to come out, which I'm really looking forward to. As soon as that comes out, I shall be doing some tutorials on that as well. But we're just going to have a listen to this piano and see how it sounds when I play the reverses and that back. We may have to drop the volume of the one to the other. Okay, the reason I've done that, I've just bypassed the automation here. So I double clicked on the volume so I can bring the volume down. Otherwise I'm going to have to sit and just automate that. But just bear with me a second. Again, it's a lot of messing around and stuff. What I'm going to actually do here is I'm just going to reset all of these and then bring it back down. I'm just going to bring the whole mix down there. I'm going to take that fade out there on the volume curve. And take that one out there. And take that one out there. So I'm just literally dropping it. So I say that again, I'm just literally going to drop it back into the mix. As I say, I can't quite hear that at the moment because I've got my speakers turned down very, very low. So it may sound okay, it may not sound okay. When I come to do the final mix, obviously I should get that right. But just wanted to show you that little trick. It's a little sort of reverse trick for audio. Audio reverse trick. Let me just take a drink. So it's just a little audio reverse trick, and it just adds a little bit of extra texture in there. It can help make your piano stand out. I mean, what we could do as well, I do like that one little section, so I might actually have that in the start there as well. So we just get a little reverse come in before the piano. And again, you can do the same with vocals, which I'm going to do that in a second on the vocal. I just want to go back to these pianos. Now I like that much better. And as I mentioned, got to just quickly cover this bass line section. Again, there's so much in this track to cover in this session. I just wanted to sort of introduce you to who we are in the Academy, really. But what I want to try and do is just do a little bit of a vocal reverse here again. And on this occasion, I'm just literally going to chop the front end of this vocal here and find a nice section to work with. No, it doesn't work. What I actually want to do is a reverb tail. So what I would have to do is this. I'm just going to duplicate the track. I'm going to take that section there and I'm going to put a reverb on this. I'm going to make a reverb tail, but I don't want this part of the track, the clip. I just want this part. So okay, so that's what I want, and what I'm going to do is put a reverb on that. So we just turn the mic. So I've got the mic channel and that, and then I'm going to put a long tail reverb. And I'm just going to go rev, just to find the reverbs quickly. I want a hall reverb, maybe a cathedral. I'm just going to drop that onto the track there. And now this is where the bouncing down quickly does and freezing things comes really, really quickly and useful. So this should have a nice big long reverb on it. Yeah, so that's what I want to do. So instead of recording that and looping it back into itself, Ableton Live allows you to do this really quickly. So if I freeze the track, actually let me just loop that there. I just want it there. Okay, so now the track is frozen. what I do is just create another audio track. Grab that, hold the Option key, drag it down to the next one, and it should by rights, but it hasn't because I've clicked off it. I need to grab the reverb tail with it, and it just copies the whole reverb tail down. So always remember that you've got to grab the section of where you want that reverb. So if that reverb tails out to around about here and decays off, you want that section, and that's how you grab the reverb tail, drag it down, do that. We don't need that track anymore, so we can delete that, and then what we have here is a reverb tail, and then we just go into simple reverse that, and we're going to move that, just change its color, and we're going to put that there. And again, good old friend reverse. So it cuts off a little bit too early. So I just want roughly about to there, and we're going to bring that into there. Okay, so moving on. Bass line is a number of layers. I'm not going to go into massive detail now because we are sort of running over the hour, more than an hour that I wanted to actually do this evening. I just wanted to do this as a quick test to kickstart the actual channel. So again, guys, please like and subscribe. But just to quickly, little few tricks here without going into too much detail and giving too many secrets away right away. You can see there's just a double kick there instead of the kick coming on, so there's a triple kick going on here, a double kick before the next bar or the next beat of the bar, and drop out some of the sections. And what I've done here is, instead of having the full bass line note first play, you will notice, if I can find the MIDI, so there's a note playing on the D there, but that actually misses off on that first opening of the bar. And what I've done is literally done exactly the same trick. Is I literally just copy the audio down, that one section, reverse the bass note, and then I have this nice little reverse note. So then to complement that, I'm just going to play the kick and the bass together. Oh, sorry guys, you couldn't hear me then. So that's not needed just there. So you can see what I've got. I've got a double kick. I've got a few samples there, but they're all slightly delayed off. And that's because I've got that reverse bass. And I want that little reverse bass to have a bit of an impact with the double kick. keep forgetting to mute this microphone. It's so confusing. So I'm just going to do that and the basses again. I can find them. Take the effects off. There we go. And there are other sections again. There's chords in there, and other notes and other synth parts. But without going into too much detail, as I say, we're gonna finish this session off pretty much soon. But that's just to give you an indication that that's a bit of breathing space for when your drop comes in. You may have effects there. You may have, if, for example, we've got like a noise tail here going through. There may be a riser effect that carries through. We want some breathing space, a little bit of silence. So that silence can sometimes be golden and create more impact than having lots of things there going all at once. So the idea behind that and just going to put the rhythms back in. And slightly delaying the crashes, so they're not on the first beat of the bar on the drop, they're on the second beat. You can see that. Just on a little break here, it's a little kick and a few crashes going on just to complement. I'll probably put one there, may go one there, again off the beat and on the beat. Now we're starting to lose the low end of the effect because, if you remember, we have a washout, and that washout has started to filter up, so it's taking out some of the low end of the frequencies. Again, I may actually sort of drop that here and maybe drop it back a little bit more so it doesn't affect it, and I get that last double kick. And then what I'm going to do is put another crash on that there. Let's just change my quantize. And bring that out. And again, I might slightly delay this off one of these drums. Yeah, so I want the swingy hat to come in slightly delayed after that. So I want a 4-bar breather and then that coming in before all of the other elements come in here. So I think sometimes by having everything coming in on your drop all at the same time, that can actually impact the effect of the drop. Whereas slightly delaying your rhythm elements can actually add more impact to the groove of the track over time. And I may just carry this snare across here a little bit more. What we got here? Actually, there's nothing there. I've actually deleted that. So I'm just going to, whoa. And I want to just take that away. Okay, so what we've done here, a slight variation. I'm just going to wrap this up. You can see we've obviously got a breakbeat here, but in this section I decided to carry the hats through and the shuffly hat there a little bit, and you can see there's a little bit of a stick sound going on. Very, very high passed. Okay, so what I've done there, again, I keep forgetting my microphone. I will get used to this. What I've actually done there is put a bass in. And it was just to add a little bit more weight into the piano. There wasn't quite enough weight there for me. And, you know, I just wanted that sort of low end movement to just add extra texture into the base of the sound, into the low end part of the track in the break, just so it wasn't too airy and thin. It doesn't come in straight away. We let the track to breathe, allow the pianos to breathe, and the first chord change happens here, and then it's brought in on the second chord change. And only the low notes of the track, so you can see here, that section here is just playing up there. So if I show you that, it's literally just the low notes. So that's the whole piano part there, and literally just playing on the low. And how I did that is I just took some of the low sections out and created a low groove. So you can see it's not that part, it's that part here. So if you match that, and all I did to get that was just remove all of these. I can't do it now obviously because it's the track is frozen, but I removed all of these sections, kept these low notes, put them onto a bass, and then I may have to move them up an octave or two just to get the right tonal sound from the bass patch that I was using at the time, which I probably was massive, which I don't have installed at the moment. But that's literally, you can see there, instead of being on a D1, it's on a D2. So it just gives that little bit of extra tone into the sound. But there you go, guys. So that's it. I'm going to wrap this session up. So if you've got any questions, please do leave your comments. Good comments. I hope Gavin's muted any negative comments out there, or muted people who are dropping negative comments. As much as negative comments are useful, guys, you know, keep them nice, keep them clean. And again, don't forget to subscribe, and we will be back with some more tutorials throughout the week. So stay safe out there. Take care what you're doing. Follow the guidelines, follow the rules, and we'll see you on another session very soon. Okay? All the best. Take care. Good night. That's it then, guys. All the best. Take care.